Hey, Chris here with some thoughts. Caught myself looking backwards today. Now, not if you're following along with our sermon series that we just started in Hebrews, looking back to what's better and reminiscing about those things. No, there's nothing in 2020 that I really want to look back on. I was thinking about our series on the fruit of the Spirit, and I was thinking about connecting that sermon series and that study on the fruit of the Spirit in Galatians 5 to what we've talked about so far in Hebrews. And I found myself discouraged, and I found myself in a place where maybe Christians, a lot of us, all of us, are getting discouraged, especially as the days continue to get harder and harder and more difficult and frustrating and a pain, and it's just too much. So I thought about this idea of having to wake up with all 9 of the fruit of the Spirit on our plates. And looking around at what we deal with today, whether it's on social media, whether it's the actual media, whether it's coworkers, school, the pressures around us, whatever it is, waking up and having the fruit of the Spirit on our plate too, I think really the best option is just to go back to bed. Because it seems like too much. Now, I understand it's not too much, and I understand there's divine power of God working in us. But really, patience. Have you done the car line at school? Patience, really? I look at the fruit of the Spirit, and I'm looking at these attributes in the lives of those in covenant relationship with Christ and how essential it is, not just for us in our relationship with Christ, but the example that we give to others so that we can bear His message, not our own. I ask this, is this too much? And you know what? Some days, I have to confess, yes, it feels like it is. The fruit of the Spirit, it just feels like too much. Today, I want to focus on being kind, and then I get in my car, and I want to be gentle, and I get in my car, and that impatient rage monster comes out. And I look backwards at this year and I'm like, it's so hard to remain faithful to the calling that God has placed in us when things just seem to keep getting worse. And so I'm looking at the fruit of the Spirit. I'm like, is this too much? And I'm wondering if I really try and be kind today, if we really say, you know what, today's the day, I'm going to be kind today, that is going to test your patience. Absolutely going to push the patience, because sometimes when you're kind and loving and gentle with every bit of energy you've got, that will not be returned on you. In fact, that might be returned negatively on you. Therefore, being patient becomes a real challenge. And I started thinking about this idea of how would we do this? How do we do this? And so in our Fruit of the Spirit series, we talked about 2 real concepts of how the fruit of the Spirit are applied in us. And first is love being the canvas upon which all other fruit of the Spirit are painted. Without love, without this concept of love that really builds the foundation for all of them, joy is just happiness. Patience is just the ability to wait a little bit longer. They kind of just are minimized and not powerful aspects of Christ-like living. So, love. First, love. And then as we wrapped up the series, we talked about self-control. And we talked about how self-control is the brush with which all of the other fruit of the Spirit are painted. So they begin with love, and the foundation is love. But they're painted with self-control, managing, controlling, keeping in control our human nature and our tendency to get angry, to lash out, to be impatient, to be grouchy. But when we have self-control and when we use self-control to display all of these attributes of Christ in us through the Holy Spirit, they start to take that picture. And so I want to encourage you today in two things. Love. Start your day with love. Start your day and dedicate yourself to loving like Christ. Loving Republicans and Democrats with the love of Christ. Loving your coworkers like the love of Christ. Loving the school bully with the love of Christ. Start with that and see how all of these other attributes start to unfold from you. And second, exhibit self-control. And this is just as much for me as it is everybody else. Exhibit self-control. If we can do those two things, just two things, then we can make those an active part of who we are and our identity and our personality and our character. We will be very much further down the road to looking like Christ and carrying the message of the gospel forward instead of our own messages of whatever that is. I'll see you later.